What's good with YouTube? You already know this is Big Flaco with the Convicts Reaction, where we smash, dash, and react. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, do all those things to help support this channel, and hit that bell notification for future fire reactions. Now, I was checking out a video from Hoodie from the Hood. Shouts out to that channel because he did a really great job, and he brought up a very good topic, man. And it was, can gang members be friends with the ops? And it made me start to think about all the past relationships, the places I had been, and the things that I had witnessed and seen. And I'm gonna break this down on different tiers. Okay. I've been in situations like this, right, where there was about 3 of us that were North Daniels, right? First, I was by myself with nobody, right? But 3 North Daniels. There was one Inglewood blood, Akili, right? Who was got pulled as a Jama. But still, he had his roots with the Inglewood Bloods, you know. Then you had Roscoe from Rolling 60s. You know, Crip, of course, right? And this is in the 90s when we were doing time. We're in the hole. And then there was a Duck from Ghost Town. Now, we know traditionally, a lot of times, the blacks will be a little bit separated. You know, it's just not always seen. And it's not that they're like total ops and enemies, you know, but they separate themselves from time to time on a yard that's well established. And these would be traditional ops in some senses or some form or fashion. Of course, the Crips and Bloods. It'd be really hard for them to ever have to unite unless it was a racial thing, right? Now, even in those events, there was never any type of true like unity relationships that I had witnessed. Now, while we were there, we had 6 cells. The other 41s were 3 NLRs that were being validated and 38 Southsiders. And it was pretty bad, man. I mean, the correctional staff there were favoritizing the Southsiders in the woods, of course, doing certain things. You know, they were, you know, taking us out fucking in handcuffs and putting us in positions to where we get gassed or, you know, water thrown on us and all kinds of bullshit, right? I went through that for months by myself. They would let them have all the jobs in the hole, like cleaning the showers or whatnot, let certain individuals out. They would make sure that we were last on the yard, if we even had yard, because they were running, at that time, they were running 4 people at a time, right, into basically a day room. That was your yard. So they would have the Southsiders and whites all go first before anybody else, right? And they try to limit our time by putting the NLRs out there separate from with the Southsiders. So if they're going to run all these yards with Southsiders first, that's at least 9 yards, right, of Southsiders, right? And then there was at least 1 NLR. That's 10 yards. There's only 10 hours of the day. If they don't start running yards till about 8 o'clock, you know what I'm saying, and with all the, you know, stuff that has to be shut down, bar lot counts and all that, there was times where we didn't even see yard, okay? Now, in addition to that, we were the ones that started to fucking coordinate certain things to start doing machine and working out. And then all of us started to jump in. Roscoe and Akili were right next to each other. They became friends, I noticed, right? A relationship was built because we had unity there in the household. It was the position and predicament that we were in that these individuals maybe would have never, ever talked to each other. But they ended up having a relationship because of where we're at. And I know all of us that were back there for months, going through the validation process or going through the shoot process, we won't forget the things that we had to do, you know? There's a lot of fucked up shit that was happening, man. You know, the guards were really corrupt over there. You know what I'm saying? That we started implementing policies that any action that we had at any of these individuals, right, there was a green light. And there's actually individuals that caught DA referrals in handcuffs. You know what I mean? When they had action to get at the op, they did so. You know, there was a homeboy that was there, that they let 2 Southsiders go up in his cell when he was sleeping. This is in the hole. You know what I'm saying? That happened in another part of the facility of the hole. They ended up in Central. And so we had to be on our toes. And like I said, there was stuff that going on there that if I sit there and repeat, man, would not always be positive, right? But it was happening. You know, a lot of people were fucking, you know, certain individuals were dry snitching and doing all kinds of things to counter attack us from what we were doing. We start doing machine, they start trying to do the rutina right over us. There was no respect there at all, man. and there was no communication. And so we had to struggle and strive just to get the things that we needed. And, they had access to everybody downstairs below them to fish through the toilets to get like tobacco and hygiene. We're there. We have no hygiene and no toothpaste or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Because they're giving us tooth powder. So it was hard to get in the cell to where we had someone below that would work with us. Well, the Southsiders had everything sewed up. You know what I mean? But we did what we had to do. And you've seen relationships between, the black brothers. I mean, you could tell that they were fucking, you know what I'm saying, becoming rock solid, you know what I mean? As opposed to in the beginning, it was of a distance. Now, it's hard to say that would happen with Norteños and Sureños at that time. Okay. And the unfortunate thing is the reason why is because of how the policies and procedures were in these prisons that did not allow it. You were allowed to have certain types of reports, right, with Sureños, like in the shoe and whatnot. But based upon that, it was supposed to be basically a false friendship. You were not to get you're not to over fraternize too much to where you felt like you had a relationship with these individuals. And that's the unfortunate thing, because you're there, you know what I'm saying, in the shoe. And I had some good vecinos that were Southsiders, man. Cornell, fucking, who else was there? Cornell was Cellies with fucking Night Owl. Then I had fucking, one was from fucking Fontana, and the other one I think was fucking from Norwalk. Then I had Shotgun from 18th Street and Danny from 18th Street, Lucky from Wedding Gardens, Grillo from fucking Pico Viejo, downstairs Old Man Nagel, who was the old school MA member. All kinds of different cats to where we had reports, right? And we never, ever had any issues on the streets with each other. You get what I'm saying? It's just geographics had us forced in our politics, had us where we couldn't communicate too much. They would be willing to communicate more with us than we would with them. We'd have to limit it. It was in our HHPs. So it's kind of hard to sit there and say that friendships were formed with the Norteños back then towards Sureños. On the streets, it could be a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? But I did witness it with the blacks. And then the Southsiders go through it all the time, where they go to prison. They end up selling up with one of their ops, which is one of their own people, Sureño. You know what I mean? And then relationships are formed. And you start to realize, man, this dude isn't so bad. And that's how I felt when I used to go to Walk Alone, right? The cages. They had us all in cages. Or when we went to the fucking old yards, right? The group yards. They would have you out there on different sides, and you would talk through the cracks. And I'd sit there and bullshit with Shotgun. I'd sit there and bullshit with Danny Boy. And we're talking about females, and we're talking about hooking each other up. You know what I'm saying? And we started to share a lot more stuff, man. And it kind of would make me think, like, I get it, they're supposed to be the opposition, but they're actually good female dudes, man. And I think a lot of Southsiders felt the same. So, but we didn't have the opportunity to really, you know what I'm saying, build those type of friendships because it was frowned upon. It'd be considered a level of weakness, So flash forward, right? Years later, into all hostilities, there's now Norteños and Sureños who are building friendships based upon the fact they can interact, they can spread, they're getting to respect each other more and seeing that there's more similarities than differences, right? And I'm not talking about the organizations, because the organizational members are always going to have that fucking cockiness, and they're always going to have that fucking alter ego that's going to restrict them from fucking building relationships too much with the opposition. You know what I'm saying? As far as the MA and NF, but apparently there's been some relationships that seemed a little too close over there, right? So that's what always stopped Norteños from being totally cool with Sureños. And the same thing with Sureños. They would be like, okay, this Norteño's female, right? But I have to still be on my toes because this may be the same motherfucker if told he'll stab me in the fucking back, and vice versa. So the relationships were never ever formed. It was hard to build friendships with your op at that time. Okay, the blacks had a little bit more different type of different type of leniency in it, because based upon the fact that things are so racial, even though he's your op, he may be the one that's going to defend you. So I've seen many times where fucking relationships were formed. But I've also seen where I've been in places like I was with Seville, right? Individual named Villain Seville from fucking Compton. He's a Crip, but he's also an undercover fucking drama, right? Caught his case in Sacramento. Big old fucking dude, straight fucking beast, man. And there was two Damus in there, right? Now they had declared war with the Southsiders. I think I went over a spiel like that. I was down if the doors pop, let's do what we got to do, but I wasn't down with the antics that were going to be applied, like as far as fucking stealing lines and throwing piss on the fucking tier. No, I wasn't with all that. But I used to fucking sit there and play Seville chess all the time, who was a chess master. I mean, this dude, like I said, was educated, very, very educated, on that Jama level. If you've ever been around Jamas, a lot of Jama cats are very fucking sharp. And I remember when I fucking beat him at chess for the first time, he promised me a book. And he gave me the fucking book where Gary Kasparov beat the computer. And he was fucking on the fucking vent with me like, man, same thing, hygiene, everything. He looked after me. And he even told me like, yeah, we work in alliance with you guys, but I'd rather talk to you than my own people. Because he looked at the blacks overall, whether you crip or blood, as being the same. And so we had a relationship there. We weren't ops or nothing, but friendships can be built, man. And it's kind of shocking that, Hoodie touched base on so many different aspects of it that you may be put in a position, whether it be fucking in prison, the streets, or whatnot, whether at a job where you're working with an individual that traditionally is your opposition. He's an op. But because you're in those conditions, you get to know the individual, right? It doesn't mean you have any respect or any love for the remaining gang members from his set or whatever he represents. But you and him have a whole different rapport. A friendship has been formed. There's a lesson to what Hoodie did in this video. And this doesn't have to do with just gang members. It has to do with racial or, environments and whatever one maybe believes in, religion, whatnot, politics. You may have an individual that you think that you're supposed to traditionally hate or hate for whatever reasons because of beliefs, whatever. But if you give that person the opportunity, just because you're forced into some type of conditions, you may realize that 9 times out of 10, that the person is actually all right, that he does hold similar values that you do, and that you can build a relationship as men, right, where you can respect each other. Whereas instantly you're already prejudging this individual. And see, that's when it comes with gangs and whatnot. A lot of times we are prejudging everyone that we don't even know, unless it's a local fucking funk. But we're prejudging individuals and having hate and wanting to do bad things to people that we've never had any type of interactions in our life. How ignorant is that really? I get it, like down south in Los Angeles, there's been a lot of bloodshed, so it's a little bit different than, especially with the Crips and Bloods and Southsiders out that way, right? So it's a little bit different with Norteños from upstate and the Southsiders from down south, right? But it's even the same with the upstaters. Half the upstaters that we didn't even know we were engaging in war and attacking just because we looked at them as the opposition, that they wore a different color or they were from a different hood. 9 times out of 10, you didn't even know who the fuck you were battling. You were just good getting at it and getting it. And he made another key point, and I agree. There's times where I like communicating and having conversations more with those that were supposed to be my ops than my own people. This happened all the time. It's the same thing on YouTube from time to time. There's people who prejudge and put, basically fucking titles on people without even knowing them as individuals. Not even giving the individual a chance as men. Fuck what they've done, fuck what they represent, fuck any of that. As men, what they're doing today. A lot of men aren't willing to do that for pride, ego, or whatever. Or some have a tendency to think that they're alpha males when they're not. Anyways, this was a good fucking video that he did. And it raised a lot of questions about, how this can apply in different phases of life, man. It doesn't just have to be prison or jail, right? It doesn't just have to be the oppositions. It doesn't have to be the street gangs. This could be fucking in the work field, just dealing with people that you were already putting titles and labels on that you don't even know. I think if people gave more of an opportunity to get to know each other and understand each other, a lot of times people can have relationships that can be built from that. They have to start somewhere. You're not going to just naturally, fall in line and start to be friends with an op. You have to be put in positions. That's why I've always said to this day, I treat each person individually. on how they act. I don't care what they represent, what they're about, any of that shit. It doesn't mean nothing to me. I don't care. You know what I mean? You have to prove yourself to me, and I have to prove myself to you. And that's how a relationship builds and how you perceive that individual. That's how it's supposed to go all across the board. Just because you're from this hood or you're that, I'm supposed to look at you in this high fucking esteem way. Nah, it doesn't work like that. You're a man, I'm a man. That, whatever you is a representation of what you are, but it doesn't make who you are. Only you do. Anyways, with that said, it's your boy Flaco, Convicts Reaction. I'm out.